Have you ever changed a belief? Ever in your entire life? Probably, right? Most of us have. I know for me, as I was thinking about that this week, I reflected back to my childhood and my belief in God. And my God back in those days was an American white man with a long white beard, long white hair, white gown, sitting on a white marble throne with a very long list of everything that I had ever done wrong. And I knew that I was going to have to stand in front of him one day and answer for each and every one of those. And then that was reinforced, of course, when I went to church on Sundays, and that's what the minister said. And then it was also reinforced again around the holidays. He changed his costume from white to red, but he still had the beard and the stuff. And he was watching when I was sleeping. He knew if I was naughty or nice. He was there when I was awake. Oh my gosh, he was everywhere. And he was telling me, my whole message in all of this, of course, was, are you worthy of the goodness of life? That was the question. So imagine had I not changed that belief growing up. Well, honestly, I probably didn't begin to change that belief until I found the science of mind and began to recognize that God is not something out there, but something in here, something within me, and that I am worthy of all of the gifts of good simply by being born, because I have that gift of life, that gift of the divine within me. So that is a belief that I've fortunately been able to transform. And we're going to be talking today. My talk is called The Game of Life. The Game of Life. And if we go to Florence whatever, Florence, she says, and how to play it. We're not going to talk so much about her stuff today, but we are going to talk about Ernest Holmes. Because if you're reading along with us in this thing called You, it's our book of the month, Reverend Lee and I are sharing that and talking about our theme, which is Your Unlimited Potential, as it relates to that book this month. And Ernest forgot to name the chapters. It's just an oversight. I'm not sure what happened. So I've taken the liberty to name them for him. And this one I call The Game of Life. So I was happy and excited to talk about it. And I want to start with a quote from the book, and it's right on the first page of this chapter. And he says, now, God may have said, Ernest, he's going to tell us what God said. He says, God may have said, all right, folks, the game is yours. Play it as you see fit. I'm going to serve you, but don't fool yourself. I'm going to reflect right back to you with exactness what you really are. If you don't like what's happening, I'm not going to be disturbed. You are the arbiter of your fate, the captain of your soul. I have given you all. I have implanted freedom, individuality, and self-choice within you. Finally, through experience, you will learn the better and wiser way. I am love as well as law, beauty as well as reason, feeling as well as intellect. You are set on the path of self-determination. Your fantastic will, seeking good for you that you would not willingly give to others, may lead you up many blind alleys. You may meet with disappointment and chagrin. But I have also placed within you a compass and a chart. There is a course you may pursue which leads to happiness, to wholeness, to peace of mind and joy. The game of life. How are you doing? Are you winning? Is it a battle? Is it a game? Is it Monopoly? That economics-based game where we're trying to get around the board and land on Park Place and dump all the hotels on so we can collect all the rent and get everybody else's money and win? Or is it maybe Chutes and Ladders? Remember that one? If you landed on the right spot, you got to go up the ladder perhaps to win. But if you landed on the wrong spot, you ran down, you fell down a chute, and you might have to go all the way to starting over. Or maybe it was like Candyland. Anybody remember Candyland? Candyland was so easy. You didn't really have to know how to read or do math. You didn't have to really have a strategy or anything. You just had to follow the directions. It's pretty easy. Is life unfolding like any of those for you? Well, fortunately, the game of life we're talking about is not like any of those games at all. And it is much easier. It's much easier than that, really, when you think about it. When I read this passage many years ago, I've read this book, I don't know how many times. It was one of the first ones I read when I found Science of Mind over 20 years ago. And when I first read that, it resonated with me, and I was excited to talk about it today because of that. And I think of life as this spiritual system that we live in. And we know what the rules are, just like the rules of a game if you're going to sit down and play it. We know what the rules are, the universal spiritual laws. We work with them and they work with us. We're in the flow, like we talked about a couple of weeks ago. We're not going against the flow. And we live in this spiritual system with the rules, and then the beautiful environment that we have is the board, this beautiful planet and all that is available to us and all that is around us. That's the board that we play in. So we've got rules, we've got a board, and then we are the players. We're the ones that get to come up with the strategy because we are individualized and unique expressions of the divine. We can all have our own strategy for how to win at our own game of life. And the great thing is nobody is competing with us about winning or losing in this game of life. We're all winners. We're all winners, and we keep score by the way life is reflected through us as our lives. Pretty cool game, huh? Pretty cool game. When Ron and I first started dating, we were sharing stories, as you do when you meet someone new, about life experience and such. And we ended up talking about playing cards. And he played cards in his family, and I played cards in my family, and have fond memories of finally being able to play with the adults. Remember those days when you're finally old enough to play with the adults? And so we were talking about different games, and he taught me a new card game. And he calls it 7-hand rummy. I knew how to play rummy, but this was different because every hand is a different set number of cards dealt and a different way of combining those cards. And so when I was first learning it, I had to write down the rules because I couldn't keep them straight. Too many numbers. And then, how many cards are dealt with each hand, and then how do those hands play out, and what's the proper suits that go out, and so forth. But as I've learned the game, practiced the game, failed at the game a lot, I finally got the hang of it, and I win. He's not here today. I win more than he does now. But anyway, no. Hi, honey, if you're watching. But it just depends. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And life is like that, isn't it? We have to have a desire. We have to have a desire. Then we have to have a willingness to be teachable. We have to have a willingness to be teachable. Had I wanted to tell him how to play the game, or tell him he was wrong in instructing me on how to play the game when I didn't know how to play the game, that's kind of silly. So we have to be teachable in our game of life. And then once we know the rules, which we know the rules, we learn those here on Sundays, we have our game board and all of that, then we have to have our strategy. Because once I learned how to play that game, then I had to have a strategy for what was the best way to go with keeping high cards or low cards, or what combination of cards, or what seemed to be the easiest hands to get, and that sort of thing. And that's the same with us in life. What is the strategy of the game of life that we are playing? What have we created for ourselves? Is it a winning strategy, or is it not a winning strategy? We have to be curious in this game of life also, don't we? We have to be curious in this game of life, and to look for opportunities, to look for the ways that Spirit can show up in our life and bring us the next clue, if you will, on our journey of self-expression. Ernest Holmes assures us in this passage that there is a course within us, a way within us already that's implanted with our birth, and that there is a compass and a map to reaching that. And I believe that we each have our own true north. I think we have an inherent true north that resonates with us at a deep level. If you think about planes and ships and things like that, they're always off course a little bit, aren't they? They're always correcting. They're always correcting. They've got a true north or a true destination, and they move off course, but they always come back to it. They always come back. And I think we're the same way. I think we all have within us a true north, if you will, that is that destination of our life, and that we may get off course sometimes, but we can come back to it. We can come back to it. I think this is our intuition that is our true north. We all have intuition. Anybody believe they don't have intuition? See me afterwards, we'll talk about it. But anyway, we all have intuition within us. Some of us listen to it. Some of us don't. Some of us have developed it. Some of us have not. Some of us won't. I sound like Dr. Seuss. Some of us won't. And but intuition is something that guides us. It's the voice of the divine within us. And I believe, along with that true north idea and the intuition idea, that if we're struggling with something and we're praying for clarity, we're praying for direction, we're feeling a little lost, that when we go within and we get quiet and we hear that voice, or we find that vision or whatever that is there, that place in us that knows, and then we come out of that and we go, I can't do that. I can't do that. And there's an unwillingness to step into the action or activity of making that change or taking that step. And that's fear rather than faith. And I think that's the moment for us to step into our faith and to recognize, is this the voice of the divine or is this the voice of my ego? And the only way we can clarify that is to spend a lot of time in the quiet, spend a lot of time in the silence, spend a lot of time getting to know the voice of God within you. And also knowing the voice of the ego so that you can tell the difference. And then when we do have that information, when we do have that, and again, it's that ledge of fear that we're standing on. Gosh, do I make this change? This is scary. This can impact my life. This can impact the lives of others. Is this the right move? Should I stay or should I go? All of those questions, right? That we are on that edge of, gosh, is this right? And yet I think within us, there's that deep intuitive knowing that knows, but we've got that wall of fear. And that's where our faith has to come in. And as Daniel was saying, Daniel, Reverend Lee, and myself, we're here for you for that. We're here to help move through fear into faith and into recognizing what the true calling is for you to meet your true north and to find your direction. But that's the power of our intuition. The reading says that I'm going to reflect right back to you with exactness what you really are. Well, I don't know about you, but that can be a really, really, really challenging thing. I mean, let's face it, everything in our lives is not always hunky-dory, is it? I mean, sometimes there's some really not fun stuff that shows up. And to sit with that and be with that and reflect on that and go, wow, how is this a mirror of me? How is this a mirror of me? This is not a mirror of me, right? We go into denial. We do all the, 5 steps of grief and the whole thing on that. But, when we sit and we get into and really begin to look at that, it can be profound for transformation. Because now we have found the crux of what's causing our suffering. We have found it, and now we can heal it. As I played with this idea this week and added the other part of it, the arbiter of your fate and the captain of your soul, I went deep with it. Because there are things that have shown up in my life in the last, 10 years, let's say, that I kind of go, isn't that interesting? How did that get here? How did that get here? And so I spent time really looking at that and looking at those ideas. And it's the only way that we can discover. It's the only way that we can discover what it is and figure out ways that we can move forward with changing it. So I invite you into some of that practice this week. Now, I don't know about you all, but for me, one of the things that's up with this game of life as I'm looking at it and paying attention to it this week and being hypersensitive to it because of my talk is the increase in negativity in the world. I don't know if I've been immune to it and suddenly I'm not, if it's increased or what's happening, but it just seems to be exponentially expanding. And it got to me this week. It got to me this week. I was at a social event on Friday and we were playing a game and there was another conversation off to the side that I couldn't help but pick up on for some reason. And it was all about COVID. And it was horror story after horror story after horror story. You know, it was almost that one-upsman. Let me tell you this one. Let me tell you this one. Let me tell you about this one was. Let me tell you about that one was. Until finally one of them said, you know, we're all just going to get it. Everybody's going to get it. And I stopped and I thought about that and I thought, wow, 8 billion people almost on our planet. And they're saying everybody's going to get it. And I thought, wow, have we lost our ability to have conversation to the point that we have to make blanket statements like that? That we can't be more hopeful in our conversations? At the same event, a little bit later, there was another conversation that I was privy to that I was much more excited about because they were talking about, started out negative, about the aches and the pains and the joints that no longer work, knees and shoulders and hips and this stuff. And, you know, remember my story with the golfers, right? And I'm going, oh boy, here we go again. And, but then it transformed to physical therapy. And the comment was, I have healed my knees and my shoulder through exercise and physical therapy. The body knows how to heal itself. I didn't have to have the surgery that the doctors recommended, the 2 surgeries. I healed myself from that. And the other person who had a surgery said, my physical therapist says I don't need, although my doctor said my physical therapist says I don't need therapy, that we can heal it through the work. The other person then said, yeah, most of the doctors and surgeons don't think we'll do the hard work to heal ourselves. And I thought that was profound statement. Are you willing to do the work? Are you willing to do the work to heal yourself? Somebody else then chimed in and said, yeah, so-and-so doctor writes prescriptions all the time because he said the same thing, that people aren't willing to do the work to heal themselves, so he writes prescriptions. I thought, wow. Emerson and Holmes both encourage us to watch the tendency or the expectation of our thoughts, our words, our conversations, our actions. Watch the expectancy. What are we expecting? In that conversation, were they expecting each other to build each other up and agree that, yes, physical therapy can help me heal my body, exercise can help me heal my body, and I don't have to have surgery? Or were they thinking, yes, everybody's going to get COVID, so we might as well just take our masks off and accept it? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know what the thought process was, but I do know that we have the opportunity and the power to pay attention to the tendency of our thinking, listen to what we're saying, listen to the conversations around us, and to change what we're thinking about, what we're talking about, so that we are a place for good and we are a place that is attracting that and creating more of that. If you're someone that's struggling economically and rolling the dice on the Monopoly board, hoping to get on Park Place, or if you're falling down more chutes than ladders, take a look at that and see if there are changes in your thinking that you can make that can switch that around for you, that can call in and attract more abundance and prosperity into your life, that can put you on the winning side of the ladders and winning that game. Listen to your conversations and those around you and see what's being reflected in life. See what's being reflected. I look at those this past Friday as not reflections of me, of course, but those are simply sermon fodder so I can share them with you. But that's funny. Come on. I wasn't being serious. Do you remember the parable of the seeds? Jesus taught the parable of the seeds, and basically it's whatever we sow, we reap. Whatever it is that we sow, we reap. And that's the law of reflection. He's a smart dude, wasn't he? That was the law of reflection that he was teaching, that what is reflected back to us, exactly the seed, the manifestation of the seed that we have sown. And that's the same with our words and our conversations. We have to see clearly what's happening so that we can begin to change it. If I had continued to hang on to my belief in God that I had as a small child, or if I'd have not decided to learn a new game, my life might be different. It'd be a lot different in the God thing, that's for sure. But I know it's not pleasant when we want to make changes in our lives. And as I said, reflecting on some of the stuff that's being reflected back to us can be a little challenging. So use your practitioners and your prayer partners and walk through that. Walk through that to get a more powerful reflection in your life, of what's happening for you, and call in what it is that you're seeking, what you've put in the silver box as your intention for this year. How can you call that in? You are empowered to make your own decisions. You are the arbiter of your own fate. You are the captain of your soul's journey. All right, so what winning strategy are you going to be creating this week for your life? What winning strategy? Let's take a look at some practicing the principles and see what I might offer you to use for that. I've got 3 of them for us today, and I'll be sending these out in Mindful Monday email tomorrow. If you're not signed up for that, you can do so in the lobby or send me an email, and I'll get you signed up for that. I send it out once a week, and it's a recap of the talk. It's also the details of these practices that you can use throughout the week in your life. Number 1 is get to know God this week. Get to know God this week. Make a date, make an appointment, get to know God. Take your meditation time and set an active intention. Set a very active intention to open your heart and open your mind and to hear the voice of God. See an image, have a feeling, whatever it is, the way that you experience the inward presence within you. Set an intention to have that experience this week. Notice again, if it's feeling, voice, picture, or something else, that is that infinite peace within you, that place within you that just knows truth. Find that this week in your meditation time. Number 2, take a look at your life, oh Captain. Take a look at your life. If we are the arbiter of our faith and captain of our souls, perhaps it's time for an inventory of our lives. Have you ever done that? Take an inventory of your life. Just like businesses do an inventory at the end of every year to kind of compare what their sales are versus what their inventory is, checks and balances. We do the same thing in our own lives. We can take an inventory of those 5 areas of life that we talk about: our spirituality, our finances, our relationships, our health, and our creative expression, and look deeply at where we are in each of those areas. I've crafted a document for you, and I'll send it out with Mindful Monday tomorrow. And it's a question about each of the areas, and then there's 3 suggestions for things that you might want to incorporate, or at least to get you thinking about what you might want to incorporate in your life for the coming year. So take inventory of your life. If you're not on the list, you can email me again at revjill@scottsdalecsl.org. Number 3, I see my reflection. I see my reflection. The rule or the law of reflection is the umpire or the referee of the game of life, because it is going to tell you if you're out of bounds, if you've committed a foul, or maybe you've stayed in the paint too long. If you're a basketball fan, you know what those things mean. Like sports umpires and refs, the law of reflection helps us to stay on track in our life, because when we can see things around us that are not quite what we want to experience, we can recognize, party foul, you're on the wrong course here. Life's not working out. You've got to get back on track. Got to get back on track. So this week, pay attention to what's being reflected. Listen to your conversations and to those around you, and learn how to have uplifting, empowering, and positive conversations. Learn how to be hopeful, even if you're talking about serious or negative things. If we can speak with more hopefulness than negativity, what an influence we are in the world. We are then being the change that we wish to see in the world, rather than one who complains about nothing changing in the world. We get to be the change agents. So just like I transformed my childhood ideas of God, the game of life may require us to change some things, may need to change some beliefs. We may need to learn some new skills. And all of that's available to us here. The good news is there is no secret. There is no secret to winning the game of life. There's no secret. It's within you already. Everything you need. Everything you need is within you. Remember what Jesus said, I am the way and the truth and the life. Remember that? I am is one of the many names of God. God is within us. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Each one of you. So it is. So it is. All right. Would you join me for prayer this morning? Oh, as we go within, we just recognize that sweet, still spot within us. We recognize the light and the life that is God. We recognize the wholeness and the unity. We know that there's God and nothing else. There's not God and anything, for God is all. It is love and harmony and joy and peace, prosperity and wisdom. And all of that is here now, present in, through, and as me as an expression of it, and in, through, and as each one of us gathered here, and anyone that gathers later and listens to this prayer. For I know that we are all united in this wholeness and in this one right now. There is no separation ever. There is only this moment, this breath, this place. Nothing in the future, nothing in the past, only now. And so in this now moment, I speak my word for and about each of us, knowing, claiming, and accepting that we have the perfect right words ever available to us, that as God was within us and is the positive light and love, harmony and joy, that we have the perfect right words, that they flow forth from us with positive, powerful, uplifting, empowering words, and that we are the change we wish to see, creating a world that works for all, and that we release any negative words or negative thoughts that we may have, and instead replace them with words of hope, words of encouragement, words of faith, knowing that those are the words of the divine. I know and claim this day that anyone that is seeking prayer, that as they lift that prayer into this prayer, into their consciousness, that we as a community hold them in this light and in this love, knowing the manifestation of whatever the desire in their heart is, knowing that it is made clear to them, that healing occurs revealed, and that whatever need is there is just fulfilled with ease and grace and such joy. And so with a thankful and grateful heart, I release this into the action of law, the activity of mind, knowing that it's already done. There's nothing else for us to do but simply accept it. And we do so by saying, and so it is.